In the 1920s and early 1920, one of our poor handmaid sisters, Sister Catherine, was taking care of a man named Mr. Louis Gluntz at St. Anne's Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. Mr. Gluntz talked to Sister Catherine and asked her if their community would be interested in buying a hotel that he has that sat on the beautiful grounds of Lake Gilbraith in Donaldson, Indiana. He said that he would be happy to share that with the sisters for a minimal price. So Sister Catherine, without permission, left and ran to Fort Wayne on the train to talk to the Sister Superior. It was decided to purchase the property from Mr. Louis Gluntz. In the negotiation of the price of the property, Mr. Gluntz arrived at the figure of $33,000, $1,000 for each year of the life of Jesus Christ. The sale included farm implements, 65 acres of land and woods, Lake Gilbraith, 90 feet deep and an area of 38 acres, a house of 43 furnished rooms, 2 pianos, automobiles, horses, cows, and a chapel, 10-pin bowling alley, and a barn. Also included in the sale of the hotel to the sisters were several hundred chickens. Several hundred chickens over the first couple years posed quite a problem, which led the sisters in 1925 to acquire additional property. They purchased some acreage from August and Elizabeth Semrau for $10,000, which included several barns and the house that you see in back of me. The house has a very interesting history and has been used for several purposes and was called the St. Joseph Farm. Eventually, it became the poultry farm. The Fiat Spiritus community took it over in 2003. For a short period of time in between, the sisters used it themselves as a vacation house for themselves and for their family members to come and stay on the beautiful center at Donaldson.
Mr. Louis Gluntz had a wine shop in Chicago at the beginning of the 1900s. The cabinet that you see behind me is an antique wine cabinet. Most likely this item was moved from his store in Chicago out here to this wonderful hotel that he had built. And everything he had there came to the sisters. Of course, the sisters had no need for a bar, so they started to use it as an altar. It was used as an altar during the time at the first 2 years while the big Motherhouse was being built. Some of the sisters lived over there, and after that the hotel became a residence for the girls, the aspirants who were going to high school here. And it remained there as an altar until about 1956, when the old villa, the old hotel, was torn down to make room for the Villa Marie, which now is the Lindenwood.
I'm Sister Magdala, and I have been professed since 1953. And at that time, I took care of children that were in group homes. And after that, I was appointed to work with the high school girls for 3 years. And as now, I am working as a volunteer in Lindenwood. These are the couches and chairs that have been recovered since 1956, when the high school girls boarded here. And here we have the bed boards and the stands and desks that have also been refinished and are being used now in the retreat center.
So this hotel was named Hotel Cecilia, St. Cecilia Hotel, and it was used for people who came from Chicago on weekend vacations here. They'd take the train from Chicago and horse and buggy down to the hotel. These tables, as you see, were part of that hotel. The tables were used in the hotel for guests and dining. The tables are made out of oak, very strong and sturdy, and have lasted in all these years. We've used these for at least the last 20 years in this room. This room was part of the professed sisters' refectory, we called it. It was a dining room for the sisters who had taken vows, and we sat at long tables with the superior at the head. The windows were frosted, doors closed, so it was a quite cloistered setting. These tables were not moved in until the 80s, I would imagine.
All this renovation started in the 80s, 1980, because I was on the council then. And that was our dream, to renovate the Motherhouse and use it for other things.
In 1982, all of the Sisters of the American Province engaged in a 3-year study that would enable us to use better all the properties that we had and use them, open them up to people of the area, and also expand the kinds of ministries that take place here. Because the sisters always had a close connection with the bishop and doing the ministry of the Catholic Church, a part of the building was designed to be a suite for the bishop and for his secretary. This was a large space up here on the 3rd floor of the building, and it virtually was closed off the rest of the year. And so it was really only used 2 days each year. As a result of that, this area was transformed into offices for the leadership of the American province, so that the sisters could have their offices in kind of one general area instead of spread out throughout the building. And that's really the background of why this suite of offices was developed and changed into offices and places for meetings to occur for the leadership team of the American province.
This room was an extension of the library. There were shelves and shelves of old books, reference books, and periodicals, magazines that were bounded. It wasn't put to much use, but sometimes we had to do some research and we could find things up here. Now we're on the 5th floor of the Motherhouse, and it's the activity center for the Maria Center. The residents can come up here anytime. There's things that they can exercise with, or they can cook, they can have parties up here. And these tables that we have up here are the tables that were in school. They were used for the clothing classes. The sewing room had these tables for the projects that the high school students made.
I'm standing here in the laundry, which is a very familiar place to me because I worked here as a novice, and remember very many things about it, especially the mangle, because that's where I was stationed to work. It was huge. It moved at a pretty good rate. And so we fed through there all our linens, our tablecloths, and all our undergarments and so forth. And as time went on, we built the Catherine Casper home in the early 70s, which brought in a large influx of sisters who were retired and or ill. And so the laundry needs increased to quite an extent. And that's when this laundry was shut down, and we sent our laundry out. So then this is a large, large room, and it's at the top of a stairwell, so you have to think about how you could use this space and repurpose it. Eventually what it really became, as you can see, is a carpenter shop, because there's so much more carpenter work done now than was before even. And so now it's got that wonderful use, and so it has been repurposed in a wonderful way. And who knows what it will become in the future even.
So this room that we're sitting in right now, the nursing lab, was the chemistry lab. And I remember standing next to, I think it was Sister Mary Jo. We were partners, and we did the usual things that high school students do in a chemistry lab. The chemistry lab was here from around 1925, and it was used up until the year 2003. At that time, a new extension was built to the college. Around that same time, the nursing program began at Ancilla, and this was considered a good place to rehab it and redesign as a nursing lab. And so that was done around 2006. There was a water supply here, so that made it very convenient to turn this into a nursing lab.
We're in the Emmaus dining room, which originally was the bakery for the Motherhouse. When I started working 13 years ago here, we did a building project, and part of that project was to turn this area into a dining area. And what we found were these wonderful brick sandstone walls, and they were covered in tar. And we determined in that project that we should take the tar off and leave these exposed. When we were in the process of doing this, we had not planned on exposing these walls the way we did, and that had a little added cost to be able to strip the tar from them. We decided to look and see what we had in storage for lighting. And as it turns out, the lights that are in this room are from the original building from 1923. This room turned out to be a really nice open dining room, but originally was the bakery.
This room is very warm with its colors. We've got honey oak paneling and trim, along with the brickwork, which is very warm and inviting. The tables were repurposed. They originally came from the college section of the building. This room originally did have skylights in it, and over the years those skylights were covered. And then when we decided to redo this room, we opened up the original holes where the skylights were, and we added an architectural feature, which is a pyramid window above.
Another one of the architectural features in the renovations that we do that we've always held dear are the transoms above the doors. And a transom is the window above the door. And so even though we've added updated geothermal and all of the heating and cooling that we have today, we wanted to retain that integrity, that character that those add to the building. And even today, people still use the transoms, opening, closing, allowing some of the different air to drift from the halls to the rooms.
Of the many changes that have taken place here at Ancilla, the most recent one is our name change. Now we are known as the Center at Donaldson. At the Center at Donaldson, we have the Maria Center Apartments, which we are standing in right now. The Maria Center Apartments are independent senior apartments. We started out with 13 of them originally. Now we have 28. Fine woodworking, nice amenities, a qualified staff to take care of your every need.